Now let's talk about this right here. The tweet here by Around the NFL. Drew Lock versus Teddy Bridgewater. James Palmer offers an in-depth look at the determining factors, decision makers, and stakes involved in Broncos quarterback battle. So we're going to go into this and see what James Palmer is saying. Let's get James Palmer's credentials here. He is a national correspondent for the NFL Network. All right. Verified, check mark, everything. So we're going to see what he's saying about the decision makers, stakes involved, determining factors, all that about the quarterback battle here. Do we agree or do we disagree? What are we hearing? What are we seeing? But before we get into the article and see all of that, let's just quickly kind of give what are our determining factors, decision makers, and stakes involved in the Broncos quarterback battle. So the determining factors of who's going to be the starter, it's going to be who's moving the ball, who is scoring points, and who is not turning the ball over. That's really the only three. Teddy Bridgewater, he has struggled moving the ball sometimes, putting up those points offensively. That was kind of the downfall of the Panthers. They just weren't putting up enough points. Teddy Bridgewater's stats were fantastic last season. Had 2 1,000-yard receiving wide receivers. That's fantastic, but he wasn't able to move the ball. Then on the other side, Drew Lock never really moved the ball when he needed to. That kind of urgency was kind of misread a little bit. Turned the ball over a little bit way too much. Got out of the gate a little bit late, got out to a late start. So that's really the determining factors that I would be looking for during training camp from these two quarterbacks. Who's moving the ball? Are they scoring points? And are they not turning the ball over? Whoever is kind of the best out of those three, I'm going to make the starter. Now, those are the determining factors and the decision makers. The stakes involved, I mean, if you go with Teddy Bridgewater, not a lot of stakes there just because this is the first year with the team and he beat out Drew Lock. So it's like, yeah, if Teddy Bridgewater still stinks, during the season, it would suck, but I don't think the Broncos would take too much heat from it. And then if he's great, they made a genius choice. So I don't really think there's any big loss here, whether Teddy Bridgewater is good or not. If you go with Drew Lock, though, then you've committed to this man for two and a half seasons. He's still not getting it done. He's a bust. They need to move on, and the Broncos made the wrong choice. Now, if they go with Drew Lock and he's good, then they just finally put in the work. His transition finally got there, and the Broncos were right all along to stay the course of that. So different narratives depending on how well these quarterbacks do, depending on which one wins the starting job. But now let's go into this article right here and see what James Palmer is saying. Do we agree? Is he going to say exactly what we just said? So let's see. Alrighty, here we go. Who are the decision makers and what are their priorities? Well, obviously the decision makers are going to be Pat Shurmur, the offensive coordinator, and Vic Fangio, the head coach. And what are their priorities? We'll see if they are, turning the ball over, moving the ball, and scoring the ball. So let's see what we get. Denver's quarterback one dilemma might be best characterized as a decision on what the franchise values more heading into the season, the present or the future. Locke is 24 years old and has started just 18 games. The 2019 second-round pick has tremendous arm talent, but by his own admission is still developing. A season with Locke at the helm would perhaps include several bumps along the way as he grows with each start. By taking the safer route and starting the more seasoned Bridgewater, who is 28 years old, Denver could be navigating through their calmer waters. They'd benefit from more consistency in the moment, but with a cap on ability. The decision could also signal the possible end of Locke's career in Denver without the franchise ever truly learning whether he could develop into a viable long-term option. The Broncos would potentially find themselves right back in the same spot again this time next year. And that is true. If you go with Teddy Bridgewater this season, you really can't go back to Drew Lock next season. If you go with Teddy Bridgewater this season, it has to be Teddy Bridgewater or somebody else next year, depending on how well Teddy Bridgewater does. But you would kind of kill Drew Lock's confidence a little bit. Be like, oh, now y'all want me. Now y'all think I'm good. So it would be kind of, get rid of Drew Lock next season. Keep Teddy Bridgewater on the roster just because he's kind of now your base, your backup at worst. And then you go out and see if you get a free agent, see if you draft somebody, whatever the case may be. The two men with the most say in the decision, general manager George Patton and head coach Vic Fangio, are in very different situations. Alrighty, I'm interested to read why the general manager has such a high say. Let's see why. Patton is the first-time general manager who has just signed a 6-year contract in January. He'd been pursued by teams for years while serving in Minnesota's front office and finally decided this offseason to join Denver. He has time on his side. He inherited the vast majority of his roster and isn't expected to transform the organization overnight. Still, the perception around the league is he's off to a very strong start. Patton has already shown tremendous patience in how he handled his first free agency period and by ignoring outside pressure during his first draft. He selected Alabama cornerback Patrick Surtain II with the 9th overall pick instead of jumping on Ohio State quarterback Justin Fields, proving Patton is willing to stay true to his board and his plan. With a young, talented offense already in place upon his arrival, Patton spent this offseason focused on strengthening the team's defense. On paper, it's a top 10 unit that has a chance to be the best in the league under Fangio, who is considered one of the best defensive minds in football. And so while Patton is beginning to his tenure in Denver, Fangio is doing everything he can to make sure his doesn't come to an end. The 62-year-old has a 12-20 record in 2 seasons with the Broncos. That's really not great, folks, at all. His first opportunity as a head coach, where Patton has more time for his success and failures to be evaluated. Fangio's job security is more directly linked to this season and this decision. If you think all this adds up to Patton wanting to see if Locke develops while Fangio is in favor of the more consistent Bridgewater, you should remember that Patton is the one who decided to trade for the 7th-year passer in April. What will go into the decision and when might it happen? Alrighty, let's see. Well, we know when it might happen. It's going to happen after preseason game number 3. I mean, this is kind of what we already know, what everybody's saying here in Denver. All right, here we go. As of the publishing of this article, there is no favorite to win the job. Daily film sessions, individually and in groups, will lead to long conversations and debate. The team's decision makers will assess everything. Mistakes are among the most important factors being evaluated. More specifically, not just how many each quarterback makes, but the magnitude of the mistakes and whether they're correctable. The Broncos brain trust would like to see some separation between the two quarterbacks by the time the team begins joint practices with the Vikings ahead of their August 14th preseason game. What complicates the evaluation is that the two players play the position very differently. During the first week of practices, Denver has simply run its offense without catering to the strengths of whoever's under center in terms of scheme or play calling. However, that will change the further the team gets into camp. My understanding is how each quarterback performs during the 3-game preseason slate. Denver would have preferred the league had stuck with 4 will factor greatly into the final decision. The team plans to give both passers several opportunities in multiple preseason games before naming a Week 1 starter, placing a high value on performance during live football situations. The Broncos would like to avoid dragging out the decision, but there's a scenario in which the team waits until after the 3rd preseason game to name its starter. In a perfect world, Locke or Bridgewater essentially makes the decision for them based on performance. Alrighty. So, not a lot there. Let's see. Here we go. Bridgewater's path to the Broncos starting job, and then they also do the Locke's plan to the Broncos starting job. So let's read these. These are very lengthy. We probably won't read all these, but let's see what the first couple of paragraphs are saying, and maybe we'll buy into it. First of all, this article is not kind of exactly what I kind of wanted it to be, not really listing out exactly, just kind of saying basic things that we have already been saying and more, or in kind of less, honestly. So let's see what we get here. Bridgewater's path to the Broncos starting job. The Broncos believe that even with limited arm talent, Bridgewater can win games. They saw the former Viking go 11-5 in 2015, operating a Minnesota offense predicated on the run and opposite a stout defense. Although Bridgewater's record basically flipped last season with the Panthers 4-11, he did finish 5th among qualifying passers in completion percentage at 69%. Once again, that's something that we absolutely loved about Teddy Bridgewater. And when we looked at what Drew Lock was doing last season, do they have his, because I want to say it was like, I don't know, was it 60? I don't know. I thought it was real low. Do they say his completion percentage was 57%? That's real awful, folks. That's absolutely atrocious. So that is why we kind of buy Teddy Bridgewater a little bit more, because of the great completion percentage. I mean, the sheer drastic differences between 69 and 57%, folks. I mean, whoosh, that is pure night and day, folks. You take the darkest of night and the lightest of days, and that is the difference there, folks. It is that drastic, and it is that easy to see. He's all right, back to, Teddy Bridgewater here. He's one of the most accurate and efficient quarterbacks on short yardage throws. Only Aaron Rodgers at 85% had a higher completion percentage than Bridgewater, 82%, on passes of fewer than 10 yards. But once again, that's kind of our knock on Teddy Bridgewater. He doesn't really move the ball too well, doesn't really score the points, doesn't really kind of go on the long drives to score the ball. All right, if Denver's goal is to play great defense, protect the ball, and rely on its run game with Melvin Gordon and second-round pick Javonte Williams, hey, don't forget about Mike Boone. Hey, this man's forgetting about Mike Boone. He only listed the 2 running backs. So once again, hey, we got 3 great running backs here. We just need Teddy Bridgewater to kind of be the game manager. That's exactly what we're going to be looking for in our quarterback, the game manager. Drew Lock tries to do a little bit too much out there most of the time. You could easily make the case that Bridgewater is the best option, but the Broncos have a receiver group that includes Pro Bowler Courtland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, KJ Hamler, and sure-handed Tim Patrick. And they also have one of the NFL's top young tight ends in Noah Fant. He got invited to Tight End University. We are big on Noah Fant, folks. Another former first-rounder who led the team in catches last year. Being limited at the quarterback spot means limiting this talented group from making game-changing plays, something Bridgewater understands. All right, with this group of pass catchers, a quick slant can become a 40-yard gain with ease. So it's certainly possible for Denver to create explosive plays without airing the ball out downfield. Once again, why you would go with Teddy Bridgewater over Drew Lock. Teddy Bridgewater is accurate, and he's got 70% completion percentage, 69% completion percentage. So you deliver the slants, deliver the surefire ball, and then you let your amazing athletes at the wide receiver position just do the work. And once again, why you would probably go with Teddy Bridgewater in that situation. But the Broncos want to see Teddy Bridgewater find the right mix between checking down the football and attacking deep. He's working to find that balance, and that effort is showing up at practice. All right, now let's see Lock's path to the Broncos starting job. Let's see what they say. There's a valid argument that Lock needs more time to develop. He's been cruelly handed a revolving door of offensive coordinators dating back to his time at the University of Missouri. This year, Lock will have the same offensive coordinator, Pat Shurmur, for consecutive seasons for the first time since his freshman and sophomore years. Jeez. It's hard to develop if you're learning a new system every offseason. Shouldn't he be given a pass of some sort? A little pass, but we're going into year 3. I mean, at some point, you just have to cut it. So you just got to cut it off. Same thing with Sam Darnold. I mean, at some point, you just got to cut it. Yeah, we can blame Adam Gase and Todd Bowles and absolute just trashness and the Jets, but it's still like he's never been throwing 60% completion. It's like we still have to see something good. Same thing with Drew Lock. It's like, yeah, he was all right and we can give him a pass, but 57% completion last season, you don't get a pass for that. You'll get a pass for like 60, 61, but I'm not giving a pass for below 60. You still have to go out and do your part out there at least decently. And anything below 60% completion percentage is absolutely atrocious, folks. Something I will never get behind, something I will never buy into. So we've got to see a little bit more from Drew Lock, and then add that pass. But I don't know if we give him a true pass right now. Maybe a quarter of a pass, but not a full pass. All right, last year was Lock's only full NFL season as a starter. He tied for the most interceptions, 15. Once again, very bad. Most interceptions and 57% completion percentage his first year starting. Once again, that's nothing that we can give a pass on. We can't give a pass on that. You throw 10 interceptions, you throw 62% completion percentage, I'll give you a pass, no problem. but 15, tied for Carson Wentz with the most, 15. 57% completion percentage, and that's dead last. I was going to say, is that dead last? They say. And finished dead last in completion percentage at 57%. I can't get behind that. I'm sorry. I'm truly sorry. I can't. I won't get behind Drew Lock because of that. He struggled badly, but it's important to put those numbers and his performance into context. All right, let's see this context. He missed out on valuable offseason field work due to the pandemic, lost his best playmaker in Sutton to a season-ending injury in week 2, and had a new offensive coordinator, and with just 5 career starts under his belt, was tasked with leading one of the youngest supporting casts in the league. Is it possible to evaluate his play fairly without factoring all the above into the equation? Alrighty, let's take these a little kind of one by one. He missed out on valuable offseason field work due to the pandemic. Yes, but so did everybody else, and we saw a boom in completion percentage. Teddy Bridgewater with a first-year new team, a first-year NFL head coach, he threw 69%. Yes, he did have a little bit of better receivers overall than Drew Lock, but overall, just you can't really say, oh my God, well, I didn't have the work. Yeah, not a lot of quarterbacks did either. And Justin Herbert, I mean, he played fantastic, and he was a rookie. He didn't have that experience either, so I really can't give him a pass on this. The next one, lost his best playmaker in Sutton to a season-ending injury in week 2. Alrighty, I can buy into that a little bit, but then you still have Jerry Jeudy, who we know was fantastic last year. So once again, yeah, you lost a piece, but you still have other great pieces around you. Once again, I really can't buy into that 100% as a true excuse here for a free pass to be made. He had a new offensive coordinator, and with just 5 career starts under his belt, was tasked with leading one of the youngest supporting cast in the league. All right, new offensive coordinator. Yeah, I can give you a little bit of a pass on that. That is frustrating. You know, all right, I just learned this man's offense and what he wants to do. Now you're telling me this is the new offense, completely different, and you want me to start doing this. It's a little frustrating to learn that. So I'd probably say, you know, having a new offensive coordinator is the biggest thing out of all of them mentioned right here that we can kind of buy into and give Drew Lock a little bit of a free pass with. But overall, it's still real bad, folks. I still can't get behind. I mean, that 57% is just it's glaring, folks. It's big, blinding, glaring right there. 57% completion percentage, 57%. The interceptions, maybe I can overlook, but I can't overlook the 57% completion percentage, folks. I will not do that. I cannot do that. You still got to make the right throws, whatever you're tasked to do. And he just wasn't doing that, obviously. So. All right, I'm kind of, you know, debunking all these excuses that they're trying to throw in there. All right, Lock could very well show improvement over the next few weeks and still not win the starting job. If that happens, might the Broncos bail on his development? Would they be giving up too soon? I mean, you can always leave him as like a third string, but I don't think he'd want to be a third string. So it is, you know, a little interesting on what they would have to do with Drew Lock if they truly move forward with Teddy Bridgewater. Alrighty, anything else here? They're just kind of trying to compare him to Josh Allen, his year 3 leap. Ooh, I mean, the numbers are there. I mean, the completion percentage, 56%. Josh Allen over his first 2 seasons. Yeah, I mean, I get it, but still, I mean, Josh Allen, he's the exception, not the rule, you know what I mean? So, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see it in training camp, and we'll get a better kind of understanding in training camp of what these two quarterbacks are looking like and who's going to be the kind of front runner for this job. But that's where we are with Teddy Bridgewater and Drew Lock. Both had their strengths, both had their flaws, and we'll see which quarterback the Broncos value on just who's going to be able to really just be that missing link, that missing piece to this team overall.